When a person is always available, something subtle begins to happen long before they notice it themselves. Their presence turns porous. Their boundaries thin out like mist. People begin to enter not because they are invited, but because the door is never closed. Carl Jung believed that the psyche learns its value not through noise, but through resistance. And this story begins with a man who slowly learned that silence is not emptiness, it is gravity. In the early years of his life, he mistook openness for goodness. He answered every call, listened to every complaint, absorbed every emotion that was handed to him. If someone was sad, he became their comfort. If someone was confused, he became their clarity. If someone was angry, he became their cushion. He did not know that by doing this, he was slowly dissolving his own center. Jung would later describe this as a life lived in projection, where others pour their unresolved shadows into the willing container of another human being. People loved him, or at least that is what he thought. They praised his availability. They said he was understanding, mature, different. But beneath that praise was an unconscious agreement. He would remain accessible, and they would never have to face themselves. Jung warned that when you become a mirror for everyone, you eventually lose sight of your own face. At first, the exhaustion was invisible. It hid behind politeness, behind empathy, behind the idea that being needed meant being valuable. But the psyche keeps score, even when the ego refuses to. His dreams began to change. He dreamed of standing in crowded rooms where everyone was talking, but no one could hear him speak. Jung saw dreams as compensation, messages from the unconscious correcting a one-sided conscious attitude. The message was clear. His inner voice was being drowned out. One evening, after another long conversation where he carried someone else's pain home with him like a borrowed burden, something in him went quiet. Not angry, not dramatic, just tired in a way that sleep could not cure. Jung described this moment as the beginning of individuation, the painful realization that the life you are living is not entirely your own. He did not announce his withdrawal. He did not explain. He simply stopped responding immediately. He stopped filling silences. He stopped offering solutions before they were asked for. And most importantly, he stopped making himself emotionally available to people who only came to unload and never to understand. The change was immediate, and it was unsettling. Some people became confused. Some became irritated. A few became hostile. Jung would have smiled at this reaction, because he knew that when you remove a projection, the other person feels robbed. They are not angry because you changed. They are angry because they lost access to the version of you they were using. Silence began to work on others like a mirror. Without his constant presence, people had to face their own thoughts. Their own anxieties echoed back to them. Some reached out more desperately, trying to restore the old dynamic. Others quietly disappeared. Jung believed that withdrawal reveals truth faster than confrontation ever could. Inside him, something else was happening. With fewer external voices occupying his mind, an internal one began to speak. At first, it was faint, then clearer. He started noticing his own preferences again, what tired him, what energized him, what felt wrong even when it looked right. Jung said that most people do not suffer because they are weak, but because they live too far away from their own nature. As he became less available, his time stopped leaking away. Hours that once belonged to others returned to him. In that reclaimed space, memories surfaced. Old desires, unexpressed anger, long-ignored creativity. This was the shadow, not the evil part of the psyche, but the rejected part. Jung taught that whatever we ignore within ourselves does not disappear, it waits. Silence gave that waiting part a language. People started treating him differently. Not kinder, clearer. Conversations became shorter, but more honest. Invitations became fewer, but more intentional. Those who stayed did not come to be rescued. They came to connect. Jung believed that true relationships only form after projections collapse. Before that, we are not relating to people. We are relating to our fantasies. Interestingly, respect grew where approval once lived. When he was always available, people felt entitled to him. When he became selective, his presence gained weight. Jung understood this paradox deeply. The psyche values what it cannot easily possess. There were moments of loneliness. Silence is not comfortable at first. It strips away distraction. It forces confrontation with oneself. Jung warned that many people avoid solitude not because they dislike being alone, but because they fear what will rise in the quiet. He faced it anyway. The doubts, the grief, the realization that much of his past generosity was rooted not in strength, but in a need to be needed. That recognition hurt, but it also freed him. As weeks passed, his posture changed. His speech slowed. He no longer rushed to justify himself. Jung said that the individuated person does not convince, they stand. And standing, he discovered, was enough. Something unexpected happened. People began listening more when he spoke less. His words carried density because they were no longer scattered. Silence had compressed them. Jung compared this to psychic energy, libido. When it is not dispersed externally, it concentrates internally and transforms. The world did not become softer, but it became clearer. Manipulation revealed itself quickly. Emotional immaturity became obvious. So did sincerity. When you stop being available to everyone, you stop negotiating your worth in every interaction. He realized that silence was not withdrawal from life, but withdrawal from noise, from unconscious contracts, from roles he never agreed to but kept performing. Jung believed that most neuroses come from living a life that is not aligned with the soul. Silence was alignment. By becoming less accessible, he became more real. Not everyone liked the real version. That was the cost. But the psyche, finally respected, responded with calm, with groundedness, with a quiet confidence that did not need witnesses. In the end, everything changed not because he spoke louder, explained more, or proved his value, but because he stopped leaking himself into places where he was never truly seen. Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Sometimes, the first step toward that privilege is simply becoming silent. Your silence can solve any big problem and can save you from many big incidents in life. Hence, speak only as much as is necessary in life. I hope you have learned something from this video. Please like and share the video. Thanks for watching.